So recently, I've been reaching out to a lot of for sale by owner prospects, or at the very least, people who have their property listed as a for sale by owner. And I've been getting some interesting questions, and I thought I would share them with you guys in today's little impromptu edition, right? So, the first question that I get a lot actually on the holidays is, given the holiday season and the challenges in the market, what strategies do you recommend to make my property stand out amongst the limited inventory? It's no secret that right now we have a very limited inventory, not just in Florida, but really across the really popular states like Texas and Florida as well, and really the Georgia and the South Carolina and the Carolinas as well. Now, what to do in the holiday season to make your property more attractive? Now, this may seem more counterintuitive than anything else, especially during this time of the year. But actually, I'm going to say that you should not over decorate or really pack your house full of, Christmas lights and ornaments and religious artifacts and things like that. And by no means do I mean any disrespect by any of that. If you love Christmas, I have a lot of friends that love Christmas, right? And they go completely overboard. But if you're trying to sell your house and you have people coming to your house to check it out, to look at it, to see how it fits their lifestyle and really if they like the house, it throws some people off if you have an overabundance of decorations, especially if they're religious decorations. Now, no disrespect to your religion or your preferred religion, if any. However, if person A walks in and they see a ginormous artifact on the wall of whatever religion it is, it doesn't matter, and it completely throws off their entire showing the entire time they're at that house, then chances are they're less likely to make an offer. And that's by no means to say that that person wasn't right or was not right for the property. However, I have seen people or I have not just seen, but I've actually worked with people that have actually gone into a property thinking this is the house for them. They found everything about the house absolutely phenomenal. But then at the end, they tell me it just didn't quite feel right. I don't know, something about the way it was decorated or something like that, right? And that's a direct result of them feeling like it's not their home. They can't picture themselves in that house. So one piece of advice I would tell you is do not over decorate for the holiday season. If you're trying to sell your house and you want to put your house in the market, or if you have your house currently on the market, whether it's on Zillow or really any other MLS or with an agent, my advice is do not over decorate. Keep it simple. Keep it visually appealing to pretty much any buyer out there, because you'll never know where your next buyer is actually come from. So next one is, with the high interest rates affecting buyer behavior, how can I adjust my pricing strategy to attract potential buyers without compromising my financial goals? Well, that's actually pretty simple. So in my personal opinion, what I typically do is I look at the data for the area and I focus on my pricing for the properties on what has currently sold, what has sold recently, let's just say in the last 90 days. Right now, going back 6 months, it's a little bit too far because of the tempo of the market. However, if you go back 90 days, you get a really good picture as to what things are selling for. One big mistake that a lot of for sale by owners make, and really even some real estate agents, which really dumbfounds me, right? But a lot of them, the mistake they make is they actually go off of what is currently being sold on Zillow, or they look at the MLS if they have access to an MLS, or Realtor.com, for example. In Realtor.com, you can see MLS listings, and also on Zillow. It just depends on which option you choose. But they go on there and they look at what's currently for sale as opposed to what has sold recently in the last 90 days. Now, that may not seem like a big deal because you may think that your house is worth $650,000. But then what if there's 3 or 4 other properties that are also being sold for $650,000 that are comparable to your property? Well, in that case, you feel like your price is justified. But what happens when you look at the historical data of what has sold in the last 90 days? Hell, let's just say the last 30 days, and you find out that the houses that are like yours are being sold for $100,000 less or $50,000 less. So my advice to you on that aspect is actually to look at the actual data. Don't go off of anecdotal data that someone talks to you about, or your friend believes your house is worth this much, or there's houses for sale at this price in my neighborhood. Don't look at that. That may be useful to compare who your competition is, but after you compare what your competition is or who your competition is in your neighborhood or in your immediate area, you should definitely look at what has currently sold in the past 30 to 90 days and use that as the basis for the price. That alone will make you stand out in the market that honestly, as of right now, a lot of houses are kind of overpriced. And the reason for that is people think that just because there's high demand, they're going to keep the prices high. And that is true. High demand and low inventory equals high pricing. However, in a world that we live in today, especially right now during the holiday season, a lot of people are kind of wishy-washy as to whether or not they want to buy a house. It's a holiday season, they want to relax. Not just that, there's higher interest rates. So in order for you to stand out above the crowd, it's safer to go with the price of the house, to price the house at what it should sell based off of historical sales. That will make you stand out way more than if you simply just match the price of other properties on the market that you feel are comparable. You want to stand out. You don't want to blend in with the crowd, especially if you want to get this house sold. Next, my property seems to be sitting on the market longer than others. What specific steps can I take to enhance its market appeal and accelerate the selling process? Going back to the previous question I was asked, listen, pricing has a lot to do with it because the pricing will determine if someone initially goes to see your property. There's two things that actually affect that, or at the very least that contribute to that decision. Number one, the pictures, and number two, the pricing. So number one, I'll touch on pictures matter. So the first impression that anybody has of your property or your listing is what they see online. If you have a good set of pictures, that's great. If you hired a professional photographer and they gave you some good set of pictures, that's phenomenal. That's what you should be doing. If you grab the phone and then you ended up just taking some pictures on your own, or someone took the pictures for you and they look like total crap, then you can't really expect someone to get a good first impression of your house, right? So my first tip for that would actually be hire a professional photographer. If you don't have the money to hire a professional photographer, I'm not joking when I say this, reach out to a local real estate agent and ask them for their recommendation of a photographer to use. Hell, they may even provide a photographer free of charge for you just in order to build some goodwill, because maybe, just maybe, if the property doesn't sell, you may go back to them and they will actually go ahead and help you sell the property, by taking on the listing. So my first thing is make sure you get really good pictures. The second thing is your price. Going back to what we just talked about on the previous item, you have to make sure your property is priced correctly. If the property is overpriced or even underpriced, believe it or not, it will actually sometimes cause a property to sit on the market, because if it's overpriced, they automatically think, well, you're overpriced, they'll come down eventually, and that will cause your property to sit on the market. Go ahead right now on Zillow for the for sale by owner listings, and you'll see some listings that have been sitting there for hundreds of days. Now, right now, the typical time for a property to go pending or to go under contract, even during the holiday season, as long as it's priced correctly and the pictures are good, I mean, you can be under contract in as little as 7 days. It's actually happening even now. Again, if the property's priced good, or the property's priced correctly and the pictures look good, or let's just say on average about 41 days. So it really depends on how you position your property if you're selling it by owner, or what different strategies you use or you steal from agents as to what they do to get the property sold. So in order to stand out, especially if it's sitting on the market for as long as it has been, you have to take a look at the pictures that you're currently using. If you have great pictures, maybe consider doing a 3D video or a 3D walking tour of the property, or really just a video tour of the property. And if those are good, then you have to look at your pricing. If your pricing was set 3 months ago, 4 months ago, you need to look at it again. Look at the historical data to see what has been selling in that area. Remember, half mile to a mile, that's what I'm talking about when I say area. So look at what's selling in that area that's comparable to your house. If you have a 3-bedroom, don't compare it to a 5-bedroom. It's just not the same. So look at that data, and hopefully you can go ahead and kickstart some more showings and get the property sold. Next, considering the financial pressure I'm facing and the hesitation to hire an agent, how can your expertise and services add significant value that justifies the cost? Now, my expertise and value, if you're asking about that specifically, I can tell you a whole bunch of things, but trying to keep this video not biased to myself. Listen, I'll tell you that if you're going through financial hardships, it is very important that your strategy to sell this house on your own is actually on point. Now, if you're talking about, or if you're referring to, hey, I want to make this much money for my property, and hiring an agent that will cause me to, it will trigger a commission, then I'm going to make less money. That's a different story. At that point, you have to ask yourself, what's the cost of selling it on your own? There is a cost, regardless of how you spin it, whether it's commission or time. Typically, anything we do in life, whether it's start a business, sell a product, or really just go on your day-to-day life and run errands and everything like that, it has a cost. It's either monetary or it's time. It's a time cost or a money cost. So what is the cost of you selling it on your own? If you sell it on your own and you price the property incorrectly and you do pictures that are not great, let's just say you did them again with a cell phone or something, and your property sits in the market for 6 months, That's 6 months of taxes that you're paying. That's 6 months of utilities that you're paying. That's 6 months of cable that you're paying. And that's your time. How much is your time worth? If you make $50 an hour at your job or $30 an hour at your job, or you even make salary, the amount of time it takes for you to do showings, to get the property ready, to do the pictures, to constantly be tending to the marketing online, that's all time. And that all has a cost. So really you have to compare which costs are you willing to pay. Are you going to pay the cost of your time and money? Because in certain marketing, you have to pay, right, to get your property to on some ads or maybe listed on a site for a flat fee listing or whatever the case is. And those are a different topic, and I'll get into that later. But you have to look at what is more valuable to you. Getting the house sold, let's just say within 30 days, or get under contract in the next 7 to 14 days. Or is it better for you to keep the property in the market for 6 months, 8 months, a year? Is that cost better for you than to hire an agent, actually go ahead and pay the commission? More times than not, the cost of the commission, number one, will be negotiated, because if someone's telling you something differently, they're BSing you. Commissions are always negotiable. Always. You see people do commissions for $500. Those are typically the list on the MLS and forget it. And then you'll see some people asking for 6, 7, 8%. In California, a buddy of mine paid 12% to list a property. Obviously, this is Florida. We don't do that here. There is no set price for commission, so I'm not going to get into exact numbers, but I'll tell you that it's always negotiable. A good real estate agent, a broker like myself, listen, we have to make sure that the commission and really the fees and everything, the deal completely makes sense for all parties involved. It does not have to just make sense for the agent. And I know that's how a lot of you feel, which is why you're doing a for sale by owner. But it's important to have that conversation, because at the end of the day, it is negotiable. And when you compare the cost of actually getting an agent, especially if you're strapped financially or you want to make a certain amount of profit on the property, you have to compare the cost of getting an agent, what their value is, what they bring to the table compared to the cost of your time and your money. So I would say take a look at that, and so you can kind of make a determination from there. All right, are there any creative financing options or incentives that you would suggest to entice potential buyers during this challenging market period? 100%. So matter of fact, there's something out there that a lot of people know about, but they don't think about. So it's called assumable mortgages. So the VA and FHA are two of the most popular assumable mortgage products out there. And hey, listen, I'm not a mortgage guy. I am a real estate broker. I've been doing this since 2015. I have plenty of mortgage guys that I get advice from, and I do plenty of research. But I can tell you that VA mortgages, I'm a veteran, so I know this for a fact, and FHA mortgage can be assumed at the current rate that mortgage is currently set at by a qualified buyer. So the basic way this works is you basically find out, obviously you would know if you have an FHA mortgage on your property or if you have a VA mortgage on your property, you would find out what your rate is. So let's say hypothetically you purchased a house back in 2020, 2021 when the rates were freaking amazing, right? Me, myself, I'll tell you right now, I have a 2.55%. When I bought the property in 2021, that's what I got. So if I were to put my house as an example, if I were to put my house in the market right now, because of the challenging interest rates that a lot of buyers are facing, I would advertise it with a 2.55% rate, an assumable VA mortgage, or whatever the verbiage I end up using, right? But that would be key in the advertising to entice those buyers to come. To go ahead and look at the property and potentially even put an offer in. Now, the key detail for the FHA and the VA assumable mortgages is that the difference between your current mortgage balance and the asking price of the property or the purchase price of the property, that difference is going to be their down payment. So if you currently owe $400,000 and your asking price is $450,000 and the buyer qualifies to assume that mortgage, whether it's VA, FHA, or whatever, then $50,000, that difference, that would be their down payment. So this is obviously better suited for people who are planning on putting some money down. A veteran that's going to go for a VA loan that has no money to put down, probably not a good fit, right? An FHA buyer that barely has enough for the 3.5% that they typically would require for a purchase may not be a good fit. But for someone who's financially well off, or at the very least financially ready to purchase a house and has a substantial amount of money that's going to be needed for that down payment or to cover the difference between the balance and the actual purchase price, this is an amazing opportunity to go ahead and entice them to come look at the house, put offers in by using that FHA or the VA loan rate as part of your advertising. Now, obviously, make sure you put on there that nothing is guaranteed, that you're not making any guarantees that the buyer is going to qualify for this. And also make sure you inform the buyers that sometimes some of these assumable loans, they do take time. Sometimes they take a few weeks, sometimes they take a few months. So just keep that in mind and make sure you inform your buyers about that. But that is one piece of information that a lot of people are not using. I look at FSBOs all the time. That's why I'm doing this video, because I've been reaching out to a lot of for sale by owners, and I deal with regular sellers all the time, in terms of listings and buyers and everything like that. And a lot of them they just don't know. And I mean, it's okay. You don't know what you don't know, but go ahead and look at your mortgages, see what rate you have. And if you have a rate that's lower than the current interest rate right now, use that sucker as part of your advertising. But again, make sure you put those disclaimers on there. No guarantees, the buyer has to qualify, and it may take some time. All right, how do you stay proactive and adapt to the unique challenges of the holiday season, ensuring that my property gets the attention it deserves? Now, this question is a little bit more like the, one of the first ones I went over. But basically, like I said earlier, listen, don't overburden your property with a lot of decorations and holiday things, especially if a lot of them are religious in nature. In terms of being proactive in a different way, I would say be mindful of where you market your property. Market your property everywhere all the time. And make sure you stay on top of it, because during the holiday season, a lot of things happen, right? People take vacations, people get bonuses, some of them, right? And they take vacations, they end up going to do other things. Instead of buying that house they've been thinking about buying, they end up going to buy a car. So I would say stay very proactive by staying on top of your marketing, and don't be afraid to tell your family and friends and everybody that you're selling a house. If you frequent a dry cleaner, if you frequent a coffee shop, a grocery store even, or a restaurant, listen, tell the waiters, tell the hostess, and you may feel a little bit weird, right? Because you're giving everybody your business, you're telling everybody your business, but aren't you doing that already? If you have your property listed on Zillow as a for sale by owner, it's out there already. So being proactive, listen, get out there and get the message out. One thing that, I've told agents, and, I've heard in the industry since I've been in the industry, is that you should never, ever be a secret agent. And now it's kind of funny because you think of it like a spy, but it kind of makes sense, right? If I don't ever tell anybody that I'm a real estate broker, or that I own my own brokerage, or whatever the case is, then they're never going to remember me when they go buy a house. And this happened to me in my rookie years. I have a family member that didn't use me when they went to go purchase a house, but you know what? I was a rookie. I didn't know any better. So I was a secret agent of ways, right? So when it comes to you, be proactive by not being a secret seller. Put yourself out there as much as you can. Put your property out there as much as you can. It's already on Zillow. So you might as well put it out to, whoever it is that you know, especially during the holiday season, because people are really preoccupied with other things. Houses do sell during this period, but it's going to be up to you, your approach, and your willingness to get out there and put your property out there. That's going to determine whether or not it sells. What data or insights can you provide regarding recent successful sales in similar market conditions to help me make more informed decisions about my property? For something like that, I would have to know the actual address of the property so I can do an analysis of the neighborhood, of the area, the zip code, what's going on in the area in terms of developments and everything like that, because all of that has an effect on this, So what I would tell you is do a lot of research in your area. Developments matter. If you have a big commercial development coming next door to you, and it's a public, it's publicly known, then that may affect the speed of which the property sells, or really if it sells at all, right? If you have a piece of land and you're next to a tract that just got purchased by a developer and they're going to be building 400 homes on it, and it's a publicly known fact, then you may have a harder time selling that property because nobody wants to move next to a construction site, right? And when you're building 400 homes, that's going to be a few years worth of building. Nobody's going to want to do that. So educate yourself on what is going on around you in terms of development, and also educate yourself on what's going on around you in terms of pricing. Again, remember what I said earlier. You want to look at what has what has recently sold in the last 30 to 90 days, because that's actually going to be the numbers you should go with. That way you can entice buyers to come in because your property is not perceived as overpriced. Another advantage of doing that, like I mentioned earlier again, is that you stand out from the rest of the competition. The rest of the houses in your neighborhood or your area, your zip code, whatever, if you're priced $50,000 less than everybody else, because everybody is still living in 2021 or 2022 when prices skyrocketed and they have hopes and dreams and everything, but you're more living in reality, thinking that, my house realistically will sell $50,000 less than what's currently being advertised by everybody else, you'll stand out. And that right there will help you a lot with your sale. Given the current market dynamics, what are the realistic expectations for the selling timeline, and how can we work together to optimize this? So this was from someone who actually considered hiring an agent. Now, in terms of market conditions and the timelines and everything like that, it really depends, again, on the area specifically. This particular person, I mean, they could look at somewhere between 40 and 52 days. And I say that as it's a pretty wide range. If I had to put it, kind of get it down a little bit more, I would say between 45 to 49 days ish, right? Is what that area would have sold for. But in order to find that out for you guys, the rest of you that are looking at for sale by owner or they're currently selling by owner, listen, just go on Zillow or go on the public records. Everybody has access to public records. You just have to kind of, be creative on how you find it. But go on Zillow, and Zillow will tell you how long a property stayed on the market for. So look at your recently sold or your currently selling properties. Obviously, currently selling properties will tell you how many days it's been on Zillow. But if you go to the recently sold properties and you go to the history of the property, it'll show you when it was listed and when it actually sold. And just do the calculations, right? And what I would suggest is look at your neighborhood first. You always, always, always look at your neighborhood first at properties that are comparable. After you look at your neighborhood, I would say get 2 or 3 from your neighborhood, then fan out another, I don't know, half mile, quarter mile, go to a different neighborhood that's comparable. That's important. If you have a single family home that's, 2,500 square feet, 4 bedroom, 3 bath, with a pool, you don't want to compare it to how fast this trailer home sold for, right? This mobile home or manufactured home or whatever. So make sure you look at comparable neighborhoods. And once you do that, you'll get an idea as to what timeline is, or what the timeline is for houses in that area that compared to your house are actually selling for. And I hate to break it to you, some of you are going to find anomalies. For example, you're going to find the exact house that look exactly like yours in every aspect, just a different color, different finishes, whatever. And maybe that house sold in 3 days and your house is still on the market 60 days later. You'll find those anomalies, but don't let that discourage you. You don't know what the situation was on that end. Maybe the sellers already had a buyer, or maybe they were not shy about putting their property out there and they found a buyer themselves within a few days, or an agent like myself brought a buyer, right? So don't get discouraged by things like that. I mean, if you like some information or a quicker way to get that information, you can always shoot me a text or give me a call, and I'll be happy to help you out on that aspect. It doesn't take but like a few minutes of my time, so by all means, feel free. But the way you do that is, again, look at the historical data as to what has sold, how long it took to get sold, and you'll get your answer for your area. Are there any specific marketing or promotional strategies that you found effective in addressing the challenges of the holiday season and high interest rates? And the high interest rate environment? So I would say in terms of that is, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, right? So just don't over decorate your house. Make sure that you're cognizant of what the pricing is looking like in the area. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. It doesn't matter what the rates are doing. There's always people buying houses. Always. It really just comes down to their perception of their property and whether or not they like it, whether or not it fits their buy box, if you will, right? Investors talk about buy boxes. So they have this box and they will buy anything that fits in that box in terms of criteria. Every buyer has a buy box, and it doesn't matter what time of year it is, they have a buy box. It really just comes down to convenience, right? So, hey, you know what? I'm taking on a new job. It's also December. I'm not going to be moving to the area until January. So maybe I won't look until January. Or maybe they see your house instead and they say, you know what? I like this house. It has great pictures. The pricing is perfect and it's on point. I'm going to go buy this house now, and then I'll move into it eventually when I move down to Orlando or Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Lake Mary, Winter Park, wherever you are, right? So it really comes down to those strategies. But keep in mind, and please keep the faith that people buy houses all year long. It depends on what you currently do, how you price it, what it looks like, and the effort that you put into putting the property out there. Or worst come to worst, or whatever it is, maybe you hire an agent and then that agent will take care of all that for you, right? But at the end of the day, it really matters. The pricing and the way it looks matters more than the time of the year and the rates. All right. So are there any specific, no, I just did that one. Can you share success stories or case studies of FSBO sellers who transitioned to working with you and experience positive outcomes, especially during challenging market conditions? So there's plenty of things out there. I mean, for me personally, there's been a few for sale by owners that have come on board with us. And really, again, it depends on the actual property, right? There's some sellers that have come on board that just haven't worked out. And I'm not shy to fire, or at the very least decide not to work with a client. If a client is difficult and they don't take my expert, analysis of the neighborhood, or if they don't take my suggestions in terms of, hey, you should be priced here, but they want to be priced way the hell up here, then honestly, most of the time, it's just not a good situation to work together. Because at the end of the day, just like I told you that, you have a time cost, so do I. We as agents, as brokers, like we get paid on commission. So the longer it takes for a property to sell, then that's the longer that it'll take that we get paid, if at all. And I want you to keep that in mind. Okay, so give you an example. So I had a seller once, wanted to sell the property through an agent. We had the property in the market for quite a few months, and that's money in marketing that was going every month to this property to go ahead and get it sold, print marketing, online marketing. I mean, you name it, the signage, everything like that, the custom flyers. And then after a certain amount of months, they would not listen to me in terms of lowering the price to the current market conditions. And we weren't that far off. Honestly, the market just happened to adjust during the time of the listing. And they wouldn't listen to me, and it was a pretty decent gap, and the house wasn't going anywhere. And we decided to go ahead and cut ties, and that's it. And guess what? That property is still owned by the same person because they tried to sell it on their own again. They overpriced it, and it's been sitting on the market for a long time, on and off the market. So it really comes down to listening to your agent. So when it comes to me, personal case study, as long as we do a analysis that we both agree on matches your situation. In other words, your property itself is comparable, and it kind of goes along with what you also want to make and incorporates commission, and the numbers work, then everybody's going to walk away happy. And for me, that's the most important part. It's not about making X amount of money or X percentage in commission. It's about making it work for everybody involved, from the buyer to the seller to the agent to the other agent to anybody and everybody, right? And that's what's really important. So in your case, the things you have to consider when hiring an agent is, number one, do they know what the hell they're talking about? There's a lot of agents that came on board in 2020, 2021 because they thought that the market was great, even 22. And at the beginning of 22, and those agents, unfortunately, a lot of them just didn't know what the hell they were doing, and they put a really, I guess you could say, bad stamp on the rest of the industry, the rest of us that do this for a living professionally, and unfortunately that reflected on us in a bad way. So don't go off of those agents. Don't simply just say, hey, this guy, this gal invited me for a glass of wine and they seem friendly, we're going to hire them. Listen, if you're considering working with an agent, actually interview them. It's for a job. You interview them for a job. So you ask them the questions. And I'll say this, the volume that they've sold in the past or the recent past matters less to me, matters less than their current expertise, drive, and knowledge of the market. Because if someone knows the market well, or if they know how to navigate the challenges that are currently going on, they know how to negotiate, they know what needs to be done to the property, the type of quality that is expected by the seller, by you, and by the public in order to get the property sold, that will weigh more than if they have a history of selling X amount of homes or X amount of monetary value in terms of revenue or whatever. Because you may have an agent that's less than 6 months in that has only sold one property, but maybe it's because of some other extenuating circumstance. Maybe have that conversation, ask them that question. Or maybe they've sold a good, 1 or 2 properties every month they've been in, but maybe it's not the same price point that you're looking at. If they have the knowledge as to how to adjust their marketing, adjust their strategy, and make it work for your property, then give them a chance. If you're going to have the property on the market for 60, 80, 90, 100 days, even 40 days, when you're trying to get it sold in 30, and there's an agent that comes along that says, hey, look, I may or may not be able to sell in 30. I can't guarantee that, but I can guarantee that I'll give it my all. Then why not give them a chance? You're not going to pay them anything up until the property closes, if it closes, right? So I would say just look for an agent that fits, you as a person, but also has a good plan to get your property sold, not just I'm going to list it online and that's it. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of agents have been doing the past couple of years. And right now with the current market conditions, a good thing is that a lot of those agents are being weeded out. So in reality, that's good for you and good for us, because now we get to get back to the way real estate used to be, when people actually knew what the hell they were talking about, to go ahead and solve these problems that you're having, or really just to kind of grow themselves into a flourishing career. So I would say interview the agent, talk to the agent, and make sure that you guys are a good fit. And that's it. Actually, that's all the questions. So I appreciate you guys hanging out and sticking around for this long ass video. But one last thing I'll say is if you guys are a for sale by owner, you may or may not have already received my book. I sent out an ebook to a whole bunch of for sale by owners. It's free. I didn't ask for an opt-in or anything like that. It's really just a way for me to give back to the community, really to kind of stand out also from the rest of these agents that, you click on a link and all of a sudden, if you don't give me your name, email, phone number, name of your firstborn, social security number, whatever, then I'm not going to help you. And I feel like that's getting away from what part of what our industry really is all about, and it really is to help the public and serve the public. Yes, we only make money when we buy and we help someone buy or sell a house, but that doesn't mean we can't have goodwill. We can't give goodwill to the public, right? That's part of what we are. We're a service industry. So in order for you to trust, like, and know me, then I have to give you something of value for you to realize that, hey, I'm not just another real estate guy peddling listings and I want all your information, I want all your data so I can put you on a drip campaign that you're gonna get annoyed from and then eventually get off of, right? So if you did receive an ebook, I hope you got some value out of it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, by all means, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. Or if you like, this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel or like my pages, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever the case may be. I'm going to be posting these regularly. So until next time, reach out if you have questions and we'll talk soon. Bye.